The Switch Pro is dead. That's what everybody wants you to believe, but I'm going to go through this today with you as to why I do not believe that the Switch Pro is a dead idea just yet until we hear it from Nintendo. So if you're tuning in for the very first time here at Royal Realm, my name is El. I like to talk about Nintendo related topics and other video game stuff, but mostly we focus on Nintendo. So if that's what you like, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button and leave a comment down below about this topic afterwards, even if you think that I'm naive and my idea is silly and crazy. Anyways, let's get into why I believe that the Switch Pro is not a dead idea, and it starts with the Game Boy. Nintendo has been doing a Pro version of a console and a Lite version of a console since the Game Boy. And if you don't believe me, let me show you why. I'm going to unpack this for you in a way that shows you that the Switch Pro isn't dead. In fact, having a Switch Lite means that we should get a Switch Pro unless Nintendo says no. So we had the Game Boy. That was the very first system, which one you could consider to be the Switch, okay? And we're going to go through this, and I'm going to go show you each generation and how each of the generations have their own Pro and Lite models. So Game Boy had a Lite. The Lite Game Boy was called the Game Boy Pocket. Game Boy also had a Pro version, and like I said, I'm going to go through this quick for you. The Pro version you would consider to be the Game Boy Color, because that was way better in terms of being able to play games with color and bigger, lit. It was a beautiful system, the Game Boy Color. So that would be the Pro version of that. No, by the way, in case you're thinking I said that the Game Boy Color had a backlight, it did not have a backlight, but it was lit. That was just the ultimate system for the Game Boy era, because it was in color and was beautiful. And obviously the Pocket was that smaller version, meaning that it would fit in your pocket as a small version. So that was the Game Boy era. Now we get into the Game Boy Advance, and you're going to say, but there isn't really a Pro version or a Lite version. Well, realistically, you could be right. But for the purpose of this argument, the Game Boy Advance, that very first thick edition, was, well, that would be your base edition. And then you had the SP, which I would call the Lite because it was a flippy sort of thing. But then they had the AGS 101 edition of the SP, which had a backlight. So I would consider that one to be the Pro. It was much better. It felt better. It was amazing. Okay. That is the Pro edition, and the Lite edition is the other one with the flippy case. All right, cool, no worries. We've gotten through the Advance, and that's probably the hardest one that I would be able to sell you on for Nintendo, having both a Pro and a Lite edition alongside the standard edition. But that's here nor there. We got through that, and here we are, okay? Then we get to the Nintendo DS, and the DS basically shows you that it had a Pro and a Lite version by having the Nintendo DS. Then they had the Nintendo DS Lite, so they've already been doing this since back then. Then they had the DS Pro, or you might know it as the DS XL, and that is why I think that is the DS Pro version, and Nintendo's been doing this since all the way back then, and we can see this consistently. Then we can move on to the DSi. But I'm not going to give you the DSi version. I don't think that's a very smart way to go. I don't think that that's necessary, and I don't think that you need to know about the DSi, because we've already covered how the DS has a Lite and a Pro version. But we move on to the 3DS, and the 3DS is another peculiar system because they really only had a 3DS and then the 3DS Pro. But I'll take you back there and say the 3DS you could consider to be the original standard edition, could also be considered a Lite in terms of having the new Nintendo 3DS and having both a 3DS and a new 3DS in the XL versions. There's your Pro version already. So now we have all bases covered, and we've gotten to the Nintendo Switch, which has a Switch Lite, and they're a handheld. That's a handheld game console, so they are most likely going to try and cash in on the Pro version, which hopefully a lot of people want to have a 1080p screen, a longer battery life, even though it's pretty long at the moment, but we could always have longer battery life for a Switch, and well, a bigger screen. Let's be honest, everybody has been saying that the screen, when it's in handheld mode, is, I mean, it's adequate, but it's still kind of small, so maybe a bigger screen would be great as well. That is what I think that they're going to do with the Switch Pro, and here's a reason that I think they're going to want to have a Switch Pro, and I think this is how they're going to market the Switch Pro and get you to purchase it. What they haven't done so far, if you look through all of the releases and the game releases and the skins that they've had with it, they have not had a Zelda-themed Switch for this whole console. They have not had a single Zelda-themed Switch. They have next year being the year of Zelda, and I will make a video on that fact and why that is going to be a good year for Nintendo. But first, I want you to think about this. Nintendo has a Switch Lite. They have a potential Switch Pro. They have a potential Zelda 2, Breath of the Wild 2 game that will be coming out sometime in the near future. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to come out next year. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying, though, is that we could see Breath of the Wild 2 released alongside an official counterpart Switch that is themed as a Zelda Switch, which would make you want to buy the Switch Pro system, and that is intelligent marketing for Nintendo. That's a smart way to go. They would make so much cash. And for you people who have a Switch and a Switch Lite and the updated Switch, you probably will purchase another Switch because, well, it's a Switch Pro, and why wouldn't you do that? It's the better version of the Switch. And I know that there are people like that out there who love Nintendo so much that they would buy that many consoles. So, for everybody who hasn't got a Switch, where you're in my party and I really want to Switch and I haven't got one just yet, but for everybody that does, what do you think about this? And everybody who doesn't, what do you think about this? Do you think that Nintendo actually will go for a Switch Pro? Or do you think that they're going to go and just make a Switch 2, which is what everybody seems to think is going to happen? I'm not in that camp. I really think that Nintendo is going to make a Switch Pro before they go for a Switch 2 because they're going to want to make that money back somehow, some way, somewhere. And I know that they don't need to make money back. The Switch is their second highest selling console, selling more than 60 million units. That doesn't mean that they don't want to make more money. They don't want to get it to 100 million units. They don't want to get it to 120 million units if they can. I'm not saying that they will, but if they can, why wouldn't they? Anyway, look, that is all from me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. They're down there somewhere. Let me know what you think. That is the most important part. I really want to know if other people think that this is a possibility, a Switch Pro could happen or couldn't happen. What do you think? Let me know down below. As always, I will see you in the next video. Bye.